Welcome back again. Today we will talking about spoken grammar and written grammar. When you listen to someone talk, you will notice that many people do not speak with perfect grammar. This is because there is what is known as spoken and written grammar. When people talk, they use a lot of slang and broken English. If you notice, most people won't even speak correct or full sentences. Some people will only use tones, mumbles, and a few words. Here is an example of a man who is visiting the home of one of his friends. He knocks on the door and waits for an answer. Hi. Come inside. Thanks. Water? Yup. Ice? Yup. Here. Thanks. As you can tell, the questions and answers mentioned above are not complete sentences. They are only one word, but the person speaking understands what they mean. You need to explain to the students when you explain meaning, or the lesson will be lost. When you say water to someone, you are not asking if this is water, but instead are asking if the person wants some water. When people write, they tend to try to make few mistakes in their grammar. They have the ability to fix their mistakes. When speaking English, they are unable to correct grammar immediately. Especially if you speak with slang, local dialects, idioms, or speak quickly without thinking. Classic examples would be a college graduate and a street person. Graduate: how are you this fine morning? Urchin: I just chilling at the crib. As you can tell, the highly educated person tends to speak with a correct lexicon of the English grammar, while the street person tends to speak with poor grammar and lexicon. However, this does not end with just educated and uneducated people. British and Americans tend to have some problems communicating. We have really everything in common with America nowadays, except, of course, the language. Oscar Wilde. British: that bloke just nicked a piece of cutlery. American: that man just stole a knife. While this tends to be more of slang, the grammar is correct in both situations, but the vocabulary is different. One point that must be made is that written grammar does not usually have sentences written that people would speak. It would be more grammatically correct. People who speak tend to be more casual, but texts, books and manuals tend to be more professional. A company policy may read something like this: employees are requested to refrain from utilizing the smoke room during working hours. Employees who violate this policy will be reprimanded up to and including termination of employment. While the boss may tell the employees, please don't use the smoke room while working. If you are caught, I might fire you. In many Asian nations, the primary goal of learning English is through learning grammar. The students of Taiwan, Korea, and some locales in Japan put an emphasis on learning grammar. The students tend to ignore speaking and focus upon reading, writing, and the rules. It's known as rote, or plainly just studying for the test. In Korea, students take a TOEIC test that will determine the type of job they receive after university studies. So they tend to focus only upon writing skills. Some nations, like Cambodia and Vietnam, tend to focus early on grammar and then on to speaking in order to facilitate a high-paying job where they can use their language skills. Students take the TOEFL or TOEIC test in hopes to get an overseas job. The new trend in learning is via speaking. The problem with this is many students have teachers from different parts of the world. They learn different words, pronunciation, grammar rules, and vocabulary. This makes it rough on many students. For example, students learn with a British teacher who has never seen any grammar other than the British standard. This teacher then is given a grammar book based upon the American standard. The teacher now thinks that his book is grammatically wrong and complains to the director until he is educated about a different standard. Then he teaches the way he or she was taught and tells his students that the book is wrong, or instructs using only the standard he or she were taught when they were young. Students get confused because they are taught with one standard, American standard, for example, and then the next teacher teaches another standard, British standard. For example, British English, American English. In hospital, in the hospital. Maths, math. Chips, fries. Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. University at, name, university. In Elm Street, on Elm Street. The other bit of confusion will be the accent. I've had numerous students who were taught by British teachers. When I listen to them talk, they have adopted their British teacher's accent. Having teachers from a variety of backgrounds may eventually confuse a lot of students. Listening to teachers from England, Ireland, Australia, and the United States, one can see a vast difference in tones, accents, and slang. One student I had in Korea was devastated because I pronounced her name differently than the Australian teacher before me and thought I was making fun of her name. Her name was Clara. The Australians pronounced the first part like car or clar. I would pronounce the first part sounding like Claire. She was brought to tears because of this, and I had to have the director come in to talk to her. Finally, she came to me one day and asked for a new Western name. The best way of teaching is to take the book you are taught and teach what the book says, and don't allow your personal opinions about the standard being used. The reason for this is because if you have a neutral way of teaching, not using one standard over the other, and free of cultural bias, my country's standard is correct, you will have less confused students and better students. Another option would be to explain this is how they speak it in England and this is how they speak it in the United States. The students will be glad to understand the difference. When teaching, remember there are 3 areas to concentrate on when giving lessons: complexity, learnability, and teachability. Complexity. Do not make the syllabus complex or overly difficult. Teach in the simplest manner in the beginning so the students understand. Remember, they are learning and you can't expect them to learn too much on the first day. You wouldn't teach science to a group of first graders using technical words, so why teach harder grammar points to beginners? Teach the less complex structures before the more complex ones. Take for example sentences to questions. You can teach I am American. You can say the structure is subject, verb and object. However, when you ask a question, the subject and verb must be reversed. Am I American? This would be easy to teach after the students learn the first structure of subject-verb. To make lesson plans more complicated, you must teach punctuation. Learnability. You will find during your career that many students, no matter how you teach or they learn, will learn in a particular order. Some students will learn irregular past verbs before they learn regular verbs, while another group of students will learn the third person, s ending, later, while other students will pick up vocabulary the first time. So as teachers we must realize we cannot decide on what the students will learn and how quickly. We must not assume we will have students learning certain key points at the same time. We must test and see what students know what and where to revise and review. The only thing we must remember is we have to have a lesson plan and syllabus to teach us on how we are going to teach and what we are going to teach. Tests show us what students have retained. Students should be expected to learn what is taught, but it's up to the teacher to do as much review as possible. You may have to review numerous times, repeat and retest in order to accomplish your goals. By doing this, you will achieve your goals and the students will be exposed to the language more often and will have a better chance of retention. Teachability. Teach when it is appropriate. As mentioned prior, teaching students requires much testing. When the students accomplish their goals, they move on. Sometimes it may take several hours or weeks to accomplish your goals on something simple. Take for example road directions in Asia. Asians, Japanese, Koreans and Chinese have the hardest times learning this basic tool. In these 3 countries most streets do not have names. Asking for directions may give you a blank stare or poor directions. Go down this street, turn left, then right, go straight and then turn left. Many Asians need visuals to be able to explain things in the classroom. Another point of confusion in these cultures is that they use numbers instead of articles. For example, if I wanted 2 bowls of rice, instead of asking for 2 bowls of rice, I would ask for 2 rice. They would also say 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, etc., to tell you what month of the year it is. The same hold true to the days of the week. Use visuals as much as possible in order for the students to use their imaginations. Grammar and function. Grammar is not all words put together. One thing you must understand or teach is meaning and the function of the language. When you teach meaning, you must teach students to relay what they are saying clearly. So when a speaker talks, we must listen and try to understand what the intentions of the speaker is. In reality, what are they trying to say? When you teach grammar, you must teach meaning. Idioms and slang are classic examples of what people speak, but a listener must understand or try to understand the meaning behind what is being said. One example would be how a teacher might ask students to be quiet. Quiet. Children. Could you please stop talking? Stop talking. Silence. Or, just a hand clap. As you can tell, the teacher is asking for the students to be quiet in many different ways. What you must do is to relay to the students that there are many other ways to say or write a sentence, question, or answer. Think of how many ways of saying hello there are. If you only teach one, later the students may think you are saying something completely different when you speak it a different way. In short, teach meaning and try to help the students understand the difference between grammar and function. You have to relay the meaning of what you are saying. You also have to understand what a person is saying to you. Well, that is all the time we have for today. I hope to see you next time.